Hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's Heart Bunch video brought to you by Utah State University Extension's Heart Initiative. We're calling this segment Heart to Heart, where Heart faculty interview a guest about a specific topic. My name is Ashley, and I'm joined today here by Kara, my Heart colleague, and guest Mercedes Morgan. And we're going to be talking about how to support a loved one in recovery. I would just like to welcome and thank you for joining us to talk about this topic.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I wanted to start out with just some questions for Mercedes. Please tell us a little bit about your background, including your experience with recovery, professional or otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. I am a woman who identifies as being a woman in long-term recovery from substance use disorder and mental health diagnosis. And what that means to me today is that I get to show up with honesty and integrity in everything that I do. I get to show up as a mother, and I don't have to misuse substances to survive what my current life looks like. So I was very fortunate to enter into recovery at a pretty young age in my early 20s. And I started in 12-step programs and then quickly expanded into all pathways to recovery, finding that there were lots and lots of different ways that I could gain support, and there were lots of different things I could try that could possibly be beneficial. And I landed in 2018 in working at an inpatient treatment facility. And I absolutely loved it. And I knew at that point in time that I wanted to bring my personal lived experience to help pull other people out of those trenches and show them that it was possible and that there is hope and that people do recover every single day. And in 2019, I moved to Carbon County and I was fortunate enough to start working for USARA, which is Utah Support Advocates for Recovery Awareness. We are a 501(c)(3) nonprofit, and we have a local recovery community organization. So we provide mutual aid support meetings, we do one-on-one recovery coaching, and we have a lot of integration into our community with Narcan education, community events, family-friendly activities. And I feel so lucky to do what I do today. Sometimes it's crazy to me. I think, they pay me for this? I have a 401(k) because I just feel like I have the luckiest job in the world where I get to hang out with people who are consistently working on being the best versions of themselves. And that's not something that you get in a lot of other work fields. So I feel very, very lucky to be a woman in long-term recovery today and have the ability to use my personal lived experience to help other people see that recovery is possible.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mercedes. And just to kick us off, what are some of the best ways that someone can support a loved one who's in recovery?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think number one, get curious. It's very easy for us on the outside to jump to these conclusions, have these expectations, think that we know what the right thing to do is when it's incredibly subjective. People turn to different outlets for different reasons, and we don't always know what that looks like. So being a soft place to land and getting curious, asking questions. How can I be a support to you today? Are you willing to talk with me a little bit more about that? Rather than offering judgment and solutions, because most people who have walked through similar situations to myself, a lot of us, I'll speak for myself, I just didn't know different. And I didn't know what I didn't know until someone was willing to walk beside me and say, hey, I'll meet you where you're at, but I'm not going to leave you there. And that for the first time made me feel safe that I was able to be honest. And so I think the biggest thing is just realizing that most people who are suffering don't want to suffer. They just don't know a different way. And so what a little bit of soft, kind, compassionate questions can do for someone can be absolutely life-changing.
Thanks, Mercedes. That was great. What are some common misconceptions, kind of going along with that, that people have about recovery from substance use disorder?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say some of the misconceptions are that someone who suffers from substance use disorder is a bad person. It's a moral failing. They just need to stop. Where if I were to look at my own personal lived experience, I can tell you when I was a little girl, I never once thought, gosh, I can't wait to grow up and have no money. I can't wait to grow up and not know if I'm going to have my utilities paid or if I'm going to have food on the table. Those were never thoughts for me. And so I think when we can acknowledge that people are not bad, people are sick. And when we can try to view them through that perspective of people are sick and we need to help them to get to a place of wellness. We're not trying to change them from bad people to be good people because most of us are good people already. We're just suffering from things that we don't know how to cope with. And it's not as simple as just making a decision to not do it anymore. I had people in my life 10 years ago that would say, "Don't you just want to be a mother?" And of course, I wanted to be a mother, but I was incapable at that point in time to show up in the capacity that I needed to because of the trauma and the experiences that I had gone through without going through any healing. So I think that when we look at the misconceptions, if we can view people as people who do want to get better, and sometimes it just looks like providing resources and providing education and providing an ear to listen or a shoulder to cry on. The misconception that that won't change it is so wrong because it can, it can absolutely mean the world and it can keep someone hanging on so that they have a shot at this.
Yeah, even small things can be helpful. And yeah, that's really great. Thank you, Mercedes.
Absolutely.
And how can someone be supportive without enabling unhealthy behaviors, right? We hear that a lot, enabling.
Yeah, I would say that support means encouraging growth and accountability, where enabling is more rescuing or covering up. For example, it helps when someone cheers me on if I do positive things, but it doesn't help if they make excuses for me when I decide I don't want to go to work today. Because I had a rough day. Loving someone in recovery sometimes means setting boundaries. Most of the time, it means setting boundaries in a kind but firm way. And I think, again, when we view it as I want to support this person rather than I want to change this person, we have the ability to see it through the lens of I want to support you without enabling you because this is your path to walk. I would love you better if I could, but love isn't enough. We have to have those tools in place and we have to learn those tools somewhere. We aren't just born with them. So again, get curious, ask questions.
I love that curiosity. That's great. What role does communication play in helping a loved one maintain recovery?
I think communication plays a huge role in recovery because when we can go into a space and we can feel safe and we can let the shame lose its power, that's when we feel comfortable reaching out. If we're having a hard day, it's when we reach out and say, "Hey, I'm really struggling with this." And instead of saying, "Well, why would you be struggling with that? That's so silly. Look at how far you've come." We can say, "Wow, that's really hard. Thank you so much for trusting me with that. How can I support you in that?" That makes all the difference for someone because they no longer feel like they're being viewed as the problem. And when we ask questions, when we communicate clearly, we also help not only the person who's in recovery, but the loved ones around them because they've also experienced a lot of the heartache and the trauma that's been associated with that substance use disorder because they have been in the ripple effect that has been created through their loved one's suffering. Therefore, if we can create a healing opportunity for everyone in that by opening up the communication and being transparent and honest without judgment, I think it creates a place where everyone gets to progress together.
Yeah, and that's really key, right? Is bringing everyone in to communicate and to heal together. And you mentioned the trauma and the things that come with that. So that's really helpful. And the next question we have is, what should somebody do if their loved one returns to substance use, and how can they respond in a supportive, non-judgmental way?
Right. I would say the big part in that is if you know that your loved one has had an instance of use where they have returned to substances, they are already being very, very hard on themselves. No one is meaner to me than I am. And when we can recognize that we're our own worst critic, and we're able to say, you know what, they don't need me to tell them what they did was wrong. They don't need me to bring up all the points of things that may be shifting in their life because of this choice. What they do need is for me to cheer them on, to tell them that I still love them, to tell them that I still believe in them, and that it's okay if you're not okay right now. It's okay to have barriers in front of you and hit bumps in the road, because sometimes that is what someone's journey looks like. It's not always the case, but sometimes it is. And none of us get it on our first try, in most things in life. I didn't learn how to ride a bike the very first time I jumped on there. I had to fall off a couple times. I had to scrape my knee. I had to have my dad help me with my training wheels. And so when we can learn how to walk through these hard situations and still be a soft place to land, because these are people that we love, that we're talking about. The goal is the same. It is to get people to a place of health and wellness where they get to live a better quality of life. And that's what we want for those that we love. So how can we create a place where they feel safe coming to us so that the shame is not what's keeping them sick anymore?
Such a great point to acknowledge that recovery, along with many things in life, aren't linear. There's definitely bumps in the road with anything that we're doing. So, such a great point to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Our next question is, what are some resources for people to turn to?
So many resources.
Uh-huh.
We are so very lucky to live in a rural community that has such an ample amount of resources. Obviously, we have USARA, where we're an All Pathways to Recovery organization, where we have open dialogue meetings. We have Smart Recovery, which is more, your skills and your tools that we're going to learn, and people have a tangible worksheet to often take home with them, because everybody learns differently. We have different things like our peer recovery coaches, which is what I do at USARA, and we get to break down barriers with people and work on goal setting. Outside of our organization, we also have 12-step meetings throughout our community. We have MAT providers throughout our community. Outside of what we do here at USARA, there are lots of different resources available in the community, from your MAT providers to your local authorities to clinicians to family support centers. We also have our hotlines that are available for people at all time throughout the day, throughout the week, because we are trying to make it so when people reach their hand out for help, they have someone reaching back. No matter what it is, regardless of the situation, regardless of how they got there, there are so many resources available dependent upon what it is you're needing. And if it just takes a quick Google search, you'll probably be shocked how many things are actually available to you and how many of those are available free of charge.
Thank you, Mercedes. And do you have anything else that you would like to share with us today?
If I would leave you with anything, I would just say that recovery is possible, and it is happening every single day. It is happening all around us. And in our communities, people are recovering out loud. People are recovering silently. There are people in recovery that you would never even know are in recovery. And the more that we can break down the stigma and normalize the fact that this is just something that some people have to deal with, and a lot of us overcome it, it can be difficult, but it's absolutely possible. And if you're supporting someone, don't underestimate how much your steady love and belief in them matters.
Amazing. Thank you,
I
Mercedes.
love that.
Thank you, ladies.
Thanks for providing such valuable information on this topic today. I can tell that you care and that you recover out loud so that you could help people find that support and be the hand reaching back to them. If you are a loved one or someone in recovery and you liked this topic and this content and want to see more, please subscribe to our playlist and check out our past videos. Also, take a look at the resources that we provide in the description below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next Heart Bunch video.